Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the FM Notebook with me, your host, Gaffer Gramo. Once again on the pod this week, I am going solo. I'm all on my own. But with your input that I asked for last week and all of the tweets, everything else you've been putting out, of course, it is not just a one-sided conversation. It's not just me dictating. It's me engaging with what I've seen, what I've read, all in the community in the past week or so. Pod recording is taking place earlier this week than normal, and that is to facilitate my birthday celebrations this weekend. Well, last weekend there. Now, for you guys listening. So, if any of the updates that I provide on Twitter or Slack or any other form of social media do seem to be continuing on from this, there seems to be continuity error. That is why, of course, the community section where the scout has been out and about will of course be also based on what has been seen in the past week to the time of recording. But starting off this week, I can say I do have a save update coming from Rayo Vallecano. I've actually got one typed up. It's hoping to be released at some point over the weekend, but things are on the way up for us. Alan Jr., of course, has been in fantastic and absolutely flying form for us up front, and we have really got him to thank for getting us many of the results, getting us on our way from a crucial goal in any regard to take the lead or to claw that goal back when you've gone one goal down. Alan Jr. seems to be the man for us, especially in Rayo Vallecano, and at times it kind of feels like I've gotten a bit of a hack here. You know, you listen to the guys on 5-star potential and they're talking about Eddie Nketiah, and now Eddie Nketiah is scoring so many goals for them and fired them up the league. And I've got to say, I did try and sign Eddie Nketiah based on their recommendations for Rayo Vallecano, but Arsenal were very unwilling to let him come to us, and they did demand a fee that basically made our bank account nearly would be emptied each month just to keep him in a Rayo jersey. So Alan Jr. certainly does feel like a goal scoring hack that Eddie Nketiah would also have provided, but it's almost better just to have one. Though you do look then again in real life and you see, like with my team Liverpool, that front three of Salah, Firmino and Mane, that with the goals these three players are scoring, to have them in Football Manager would be fantastic. That you'd nearly be a system working, but when you have a player like Alan Jr. scoring the goals for us, like he is, like he's responsible for well over half the goals we scored this season. Well, half at least. That it almost feels like we've just managed to find that one player who's just going to make the system click. It's really taken off with him up front. And granted, we're not the top goal scorers in the league, but Alan Jr. personally is, and that's certainly got something to be very positive about. Across the pitch as well, we've also been very positive. Paulo Maffeo has been fantastic at right back. The loanee from Manchester City, he's currently with Girona. In real life, you might remember a story about him saying we didn't want Messi's jersey, even though he marked him out of the game for Girona earlier on this season. But he has been fantastic at right back. His fellow Man City loanee, Paulo Fernandes, hasn't been able to get in the team. He's an inside forward who likes to play on the right wing, and he just hasn't performed at all. And I've actually had to have a few conversations from Massimo Allegri, who is the Manchester City manager in my save, who has been lecturing me on how I'm breaching the loan agreement. But as I keep telling him every time, well, if Paulo wants to play, Paulo has to perform, and he's not performing, and that's why he's not in the team. We've also lost Pedro Chiravella for a time. He's picked up a slight knee injury, so hopefully he'll return. Really going to get us going again in midfield. But thankfully Oscar Trejo is back, and we also have the young John Orango coming through as well, an advanced playmaker. So we're not short of ideas in the middle of midfield. At the back then, Emiliano Velasquez has made his loan move permanent. Take that, Diego Simeone. Diego Simeone was not happy at all when Emiliano announced that he was signing for us on a free transfer at the end of his contract in June 2019. So he'll be very, very welcome. He's currently the vice captain. Well, that was a little kind of encouragement when we loaned him in at the start of the season to say at the end of your contract, would you like to stay permanently? So, and it seems to have worked. So Emiliano will be signing permanently, and he's played very well lately. And of course, he's been partnered by the fantastic Paulo Insua of Schalke. Unfortunately, though, for Paulo, he did pick up a broken cheekbone, and opting against the financial option of putting a face mask on him and sending him out onto the field looking like a superhero, we decided to take the hit for 3 or 4 weeks, cope with the guys that we have. So Antonio Maya has gotten a run back in the team, our experienced leader, and performances haven't been too bad. We ironically, at the time of recording this podcast, which is of course episode 3, getting the win, 3 points, how do you get them, especially when you're losing at half time? We recently did lose 3-0 at home to Levante, a game which we couldn't turn around, so that's ironic. And then, but you know, we can be positive that was just a terrible team performance. Alan Jr. was also injured. He got concussed after scoring a hat-trick in the game before, so we were without our star striker as well. So that was just a game where the whole team just didn't perform. In goal as well, Mario has been fantastic for us. Again, it's something I have mentioned there in the blog post, how he replaced Alberto Garcia. He came in the cup matches, and to be fair to Alberto Garcia, he did nothing wrong. Just Mario just got in the cup match, and I kind of noticed we did play better defensively. We did recycle play better from the back, and that was the reason why he got his place back in the team. So hopefully now he can continue this rich run of form. Hope we haven't jinxed him now. Hopefully we can now look forward to building up a run of form. We have a slight gap at the top now. It's kind of chopping and change between 4 and 6 points at the minute. So hopefully now we can keep just our noses ahead. Having the 2 games swing really in terms of results is really, really important. You know, at Sporting Gijón are reading right down our necks there in second place, and we do have a game against them coming up as well. So hopefully by the time we come to play them, we can be comfortably 6 points in the lead, and even if we do lose it, we'll be 3 points clear of them. You know, we'll have dropped 3 points, but we still have the 3-point cushion, and hopefully that'll be enough then to see us finish in the top 2 in the league and get automatic promotion. Because I kind of feel now, looking at the way the season's going, it would be an awful shame, an awful travesty for us to drop out of the top 4, or the top 2 even. Real travesty to drop out of the top 2 and find ourselves in the playoff places, and God forbid dropping out of the playoff picture and promotion picture altogether. But the board seem very, very pleased with our performances at the minute. The fans seem very pleased. Of course, when you don't win some matches, they can be very critical of finding in Vallecas, but we've shown the ability to bounce back in games, like where we've, like as you'll see in the blog post with the fixtures and results part, like, you know, we did go on a run of, we lost our first game, won the next 4 or 5, lost to Numantia in the cup, and then drew the 2 games after that, and then started winning again. So we've shown we have the ability to bounce back, the ability to keep pushing forward. Like, we've lost 3 games all season, which is very impressive. So hopefully the team can keep pushing forward. The new tactics, the post is coming. The post, everything is there. It'll just be released, I'd say, later on this. Will be released later on this week. I do have just the finer pieces to put together. The new tactics seem to be working well. We've adapted the 4-3-3 now into a 4-2-3-1 again. That's a bit more direct. But we also have now a slightly different option where we're playing shorter, faster, more aggressive football, possession based, rather than the attacking direct play that we've had success with as well. So it's interesting to see us performing well with both styles. But then again, it's kind of we're still in that space of preparing for possible life next season in the top tier, hopefully survival. And now moving on then to our quick fire questions. This week only 2 were sent in, and they've been added to the list, so if there's any future guests on the podcast, I'll have these questions ready for them. But the 2 questions fired into me this week, I will answer those now. And feel free to get involved. Of course, you can tweet me any of your responses. My Twitter handle is at GafferGraymoFM, and I'm on Slack. It's hashed with the Slack channel's name is GafferGraymo. So the first question that was fired my way was, when has your FM save overstepped into your real life? And that's really, I think that's when every real Football Manager player gets once in their life, at least once. And I can say honestly, I've never suited up for an FM Cup final. I'm superstitious. I don't wear a suit at all during the playing of Football Manager. And I get the superstition of, if I get to the final, I keep wearing regular clothes, keep wearing what I normally wear when I'm playing Football Manager, because I'm saying, no, I am not jinxing myself putting on the suit, just in case the FM gods see it as a chance to take me down. In different ways, Football Manager's really overstepped into my life. My collection of football jerseys, I must have nearly 100 football jerseys at this stage, and many of them I've tried to manage the club from the club whose jersey I have. So from the obscure jerseys like Brahma Puckjarn from Sweden, who inspired my FM Touch experiment last summer, all the way up to Schalke last season on FM 17. One of the ways that Football Manager has overstepped into my life is in adding to the collection of football jerseys I have. Another way, of course, is my incessant talking about it. When I started going out with my girlfriend, my Football Manager playing was minimal because of the stresses and the time commitment I had to work at the time. So once I kind of got settled into a work routine, and Football Manager found its way back in, and all of a sudden it was all I was talking about, or if I was distracted, or if I was not responding to messages or phone calls, whatever it was, Football Manager was the cause. And thankfully she stuck with me through it. I can't say it's cost me a girlfriend, and I don't think it will, because she herself now asked me how I got on. She herself has even dabbled in a bit of FM Touch, which was an extremely enjoyable experience to watch, because as someone who's semi-interested in football, to see her try to comprehend everything, even in the skimmed down version of Touch, was really, really funny. And it's the type of person who, football's only exciting when there's plenty of goals scored. She was managing Real Madrid. She was playing super direct football, and it was really enjoyable to watch. But she was winning every match 1-0, which kind of frustrated her, because she loves plenty of goals. And especially with Real Madrid, if we win on matches 1-0, it was certainly a sight to behold. So like, another way it stepped into my life is that way. And then the biggest way I can think of it was when it was really, really a big thing in my house, where we had one computer in the house, and like I'm talking less than 10 years ago even. And there'd be my brother, me, and my dad, and the three of us would play Football Manager. And being the responsible parents for my mum and dad, where it was 1 hour on the computer, 1 hour was up, doesn't matter what you were doing for the 1 hour, you're off. And so the key was always to try and get a match kind of started as close to the hour as possible. So I'm in the middle of a match, I'll have to wait till the match is over, you get your extra few minutes. But I remember around the dinner table we'd be talking football, and my mum would always have to ask the question, now is this in real life or is this in your games? And I think that was the biggest way Football Manager really overstepped into our life, was where it would even be, we'd be talking about Liverpool, because we'd all be managing Liverpool, and we'd all be talking about who we've signed, the tactics we're using, the results we've gotten, the goals we scored, how we've won things. And I think it was really enjoyable discussions. But I would understand from my man's perspective, because we'd switch in and out of talking between Liverpool and real life and our games so fluidly, someone couldn't keep up. So that was the biggest way Football Manager's overstepped really into my life. And then the other question that fired into me was, who has been your biggest flop? And that's a really, really, really hard question. In Football Manager, I spent a lot of money on some players who never really kicked on. Sometimes then I've had players who've caused nothing but performed remarkably poorly as well. I remember with Liverpool in Football Manager 2007, 8, I'd like to say, I signed Samir Nasri from Marseille before he went to Arsenal. And at the time, Portsmouth were second in the league. They were a really, really strong team. And I signed Samir in, and he came in on the 1st of January. And on the 2nd of January, I had a loan offer from Portsmouth to take Samir on loan for the rest of the season. And I remember thinking to myself, well, it saves the hassle of having an unhappy player who's not getting his place in the team or unsettling the team that was already there. So I let him go. Like I spent 8 million on him. I let him go, loan signing, and he performed admirably for Portsmouth. He was really integral in them finishing comfortably second in the league and really pushing me in the league, even though he couldn't play against me, of course, in the fixture he did have against him. And then in the summer, Portsmouth came along and offered me 20 million for him. So I wouldn't know if you'd regard that as a flop, but it was a player who couldn't force his way into the team. The only reason I took the 20 million, it wasn't because I wanted the 20 million, or it was the chance of making a serious profit over no work, but it was just a case of, when I looked at the reports from the other players, he just didn't compare to the players I already had at the club. So I don't know if you regard that as a flop. But the other one I can think of then was last year with Schalke. I signed Fernando Llorente from Swansea after they'd been relegated, to act as my plan B, where I could just go direct and lump the ball in the box if the other ways weren't working. And as a credit to Fernando, he actually retired at Schalke and became a coach 2 seasons later. But I couldn't get an average rating of above 7 for the man. Starting him, bringing him on from the bench, lumping balls into the box, playing direct whip, floating crosses into the box, we just could not get that man going. He cost 5 million, which wasn't a serious sum of money, of course, but it just could not get that man playing. And I was really disappointed because I'd had him I signed him as a 19-year-old, I think it was, from Athletic Bilbao with Liverpool years ago in Football Manager, and he was phenomenal. He was playing in front with Fernando Cavanaghi, the Argentinian forward, and the partnership the two of them had was incredible. Goals left, right, centre. It was really a phenomenal partnership up front, and bringing him back to nostalgia, bringing him back into Schalke, I took the first chance I could to bring him back. I loved the idea of having a focal point, this big number 9 up front. But just for the life of me, just couldn't figure out a way to get that man going, despite everything I read, everything I watched. So I suppose it was more the biggest flop in terms of nostalgia, emotionally wise, that Fernando, I think, could be again one of the bigger flops that I've had on Football Manager. And now moving on to our topic of the week. And our topic of the week was securing all 3 points, but in terms of coming from behind, throwing a game on its head. As we've seen in the last week, Manchester United against Manchester City starting it all off, and then the Champions League games going the way they have. Really, wins have come this week from games being turned completely on their head, and it's been a phenomenal watch in some of those matches from a neutral perspective. So my question again to the community was, how do you turn a game around when you're losing at half time? And of course, it's one of the more difficult things you do as a manager, because at half time the plan just hasn't worked. Sometimes you can be fortunate enough just to be that one goal down. Other times, like that game against Levante I was talking about at the start of the podcast, I was 3-0 down after 15 minutes. And for fairness, Levante were outside the playoff places, and we just could not perform in that game at all. We were making mistakes left, right and centre. We were missing chances. Like, I think we finished level on shots on goal with them, but shots on target just didn't happen. So it was a really, really shocking performance from us. But again, as the manager, I just couldn't turn it around at half time. You think of tactics, of course, at half time. You do think of, me personally, I look at my tactics and say, okay, what's working and what's not working. Of course, before the match, I always look at the scout reports and I see what tactics do this side have trouble against, and sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. It's the nature of football. It's a random game. Sometimes a team can the combination just falls their way, the look of the game just falls their way, and a tactic they've struggled against, all of a sudden they found a way to work around it, or they've switched something and changed something. Who knows? But for me, when I think of losing a game, it's, of course, in the second half you have to take more risks. It's natural. Whether you're 1-0 down or 3-0 down, you do have to take more risks. You have to find ways of risk taking, but at the same time you don't want to score one and then concede one at the same time, because again, it's like that one step forward, one step forward, 2 steps back, where the situation is just not getting any better. So tactically, what I always tend to do is it's look at the team and find where can I balance. And if as a natural preference for me, I would like to play 4 defenders at the back, and then a defensive midfielder in front. And then I do like the wingers, the fullbacks, to be supporting the wingers, to be pushing up the pitch and providing an option wide. But of course you want them to be doing this conservatively. But if you're losing at half time, you do have to take more risks. So like one thing I tend to do is look at the ball winning midfielder, that's generally my defensive midfielder, and see, does he have the attributes to become a halfback or an anchor man? And I can commit the fullbacks further up the pitch, where in an attacking sense I'm not leaving just the 2 centre halves exposed, where a defensive midfielder can drop in and almost become like a third centre back. So that's one option, of course. I think a thing that it's also worth considering is you do have to take more risks, but you also want to be retaining possession, because if you're in possession you can control the game. Now, I understand frustratingly teams that do play with the low block, they're encouraging you to retain possession, and obviously in a situation like that, of course, looking to be a bit more direct or upping the tempo will obviously increase the risk of a pass being completed, because your players have less time to think, because you're tending to think quicker, or you're tending to play riskier passes. But if you can control the game, control the ball, and then try and control the spaces in your own third of the pitch, the risk taking further up the pitch can be done with the safety net behind you of, like I said, having the anchor man, the halfback, and a more aggressive centre midfielder who can then allow the players in front to be pushing up further forward. The subs also has to be something that's taken into account. Sometimes you might need to get more attacking player on the pitch. A deep lying playmaker can make way for an advanced playmaker, or like that, a defensive midfielder could make way for an attacking player, whether it's an attacking midfielder or another forward. But you've also got to be aware of, by committing more players further forward, you're also meaning there's less space. And like I said, with the teams with low block, there's less space to begin with. So again, it's looking to be creative. I think if you look at, as a credit again to Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp has really, and his team have looked really, really well, and they said, well, teams play the low block we struggled against in his first season in charge when he took over midway through it, and to rectify that with Sadio Mane, a bit of an injection of pace, and it worked. And then this season, injecting Salah's pace with Mane, and then having a deeper forward like Firmino, it's moved defences about. So that could also be something worth considering, is looking at your bench and seeing, is there any players who have high acceleration or high pace, and you could then use the instruction of pass into space, and this player could be targeted then because you're looking to use their pace and acceleration to get it beyond the low block, put the ball over the top to them to run on. Something definitely worth considering. Another thing then, of course, is the option in Football Manager of the shouts. And it's the one thing I really miss when I play touch, that I find if I'm losing on FM touch, it's an awful lot harder to turn the game around, because I love to click the touch. I love to click shouts on Football Manager, and I miss when I play touch. I kind of have the routine of, I won't shout for the first 20 minutes of the match. I want to see what the pattern is. And if we're 3-0 up, it'll be encourage. Or if we're losing 1-0 or it's a draw, it'll be demand more. And especially if it's been a very abject performance, we've been on the back foot, like showing some passion. But getting the shouts especially, I think, is something that can really put the fire into players. And the fact that you can direct the shouts at specific players. So like if a player gets booked, of course, say calm down, you don't want them getting sent off. But at the same time, if a player's looking nervous or is needing of complacent or uninterested, is needing of a shout from the sideline, being able to direct it at them and say, kind of, pull your socks up, get your act together, come on, does it mean something to you that you're losing? Where's your pride? You know, the team is counting on you. Give them what you got. Empty the tank. I think is really, really something that's worth considering, because, of course, as it says, the shouts do change your tactics, which changes the mentality of the player. And for me, whether it's a placebo effect or not, it does have an impact on the performance. And as well, just like the next thing I would say, which is team talks, getting them in at half time and saying, we're losing. Whether you're losing to the team that's top of the league, running away with the league, you know, telling them you expect more, telling them you're upset, asking them where their pride is. You know, in your head, like, you think of Any Given Sunday, that inspirational Al Pacino team talk, whether that's you in the dressing room or you're leading one of those Hollywood-esque speeches that you might see from William Wallace and Braveheart. You look at these, you take it in your head and you say, you need to get your players fired up like these characters in films did. You don't need to fill around them and sit them down in front of the fans and start giving out. Obviously, football managers now have that option, but in your head, if that's what the halftime team talk is, it might say dressing room up the top right hand corner for you to go and click. But if in your head you've taken the dressing room onto the pitch, are you going to dress them down? If you can get the reaction to the players from halftime, send them out, fire them up and get an early goal, and then go back to your shouts option, then maybe, just maybe, you might be able to turn that game in your head where a game where you're expected to win turns into this spectacular comeback, or rescuing a draw in a relegation battle, whatever it is. Like again, like I think of the 3-0 defeat to Levante, where no matter what I said to those players, the performance was just not good enough. And then in the next match against Deportivo, we were 1-0 down after 5 minutes at home. And I remember just staring at the computer screen and saying, what is going on here? We've gone from this unstoppable run of form to all of a sudden a defeat, and our confidence is on the rocks. And like that, the shouts until demand more, show some passion. And at half time we were leading 2-1. Again, well, of course, I had Alan Jr. to thank for that, the goal scoring machine that he is. But I really think the shouts and the team talks option that's been included by the guys at the Football Manager has really added that giving you a better chance in game of turning a game on its head. Like I said, touch is completely different. And then the community have also pitched in their ideas, and thank you to Charlie Tango, Cookie FM, and Sir Valerian, because these guys contribute, and I have to agree, and what they're sharing as well is some interesting as well, because like Charlie Tango says, it's usually subs first, just go to, get 2 on the pitch and inject the fresh ideas in, and then hold them back just in case by some miracle we go ahead and suddenly it's need to, okay, batten down the hatches, defensive player on. He says we'll tell the players how shite they've been, and I have to agree with him there. Something you can't, just because some of these prima donnas might want to have their ego touched, you have to just shout at them and tell them, yeah, no, so we'll demand more early in the second half. I really agree with Charlie, and of course Charlie's success at Swansea on the higher tempo shows again that he is someone who's sharing his experience, and it's something well worth taking on board. I'd agree with him there. Cookie likes to go for the motivational team talk, but it almost never works. Trying to encourage the players, come on, you can do it. And unfortunately for poor Cookie, it doesn't seem to work. And then he also says he might make a sub to change things up. And then Sir Valerian has joined in with the angle myself and Charlie were coming at, and that's the aggressive and not happy team talk, giving the players that rollick and get them angry and fired up and motivated to get back out and make a change. And he says, or if we're down more and I can say to show me that you want to win, he says that even works even better for him. So maybe that's something you could take on board. And another thing I suppose that really has to impact this is the motivation attribute that we have set ourselves at the start of the game when we made our profiles. And I just tend to use the automatic one, which makes me in international football or whatever it is. But I also think like the mental attributes are something that's really something worth important. It's of course, when you look at the attribute side of it, what your coaching attributes are, you don't have the good coaching side. But then of course you got to think: are you a head coach? Are you a manager? Are you someone who's going to have a great, good motivating? And it's something I'll tend to try and stack up the points in. That I might take one from here or there. Motivating, I think, is something that really is worth paying attention to, because as well, if you're in a situation like this where you're behind, you're losing, having the ability to motivate your team with a high motivating level, I think also would have to correspond with what you're saying and getting across the pitch and getting the reaction out of these players. Again, going back to the Alan Jr. in that Deportivo match, Alan Jr. was 6.2 after 30 minutes when we were losing, and like that directed a specific shout at him, showing me some passion, scored 2 goals, and at half time he was a 7.9. So whether that was down to my motivating team talk that I gave him, whether it was down to my motivational attribute, or it was just down to the fact that the man is a goal scoring machine, that I think that motivation attribute you have in your manager profile is something very important. It's something really worth paying attention to, especially in starting a new save. I don't know if it's something you can edit after you start a new game, so whether you want to go and check that now or the next time you load up FM, that's what you can let me know, of course. But I think that motivational attribute is something that's well worth paying very close attention to. But that takes me up to the FM Notebooks Community Scout section. So the purpose of the FM Notes Community Scout is to promote some of the content I've seen published in the past week. If you create anything, please don't forget to use the hashtag #WeAreTheCommunity, and I'll try to feature some of your content in each episode. Links to all the content will be found in the tweets and the description box below. So starting off, we have Tom at Viva La Vida FM, and he has published a really interesting piece discussing the finer details of developing that wonder kid. Tom is currently in his 12th season at Östersund in Sweden, and his experience comes across from this process in a fantastic piece that's well worth your few minutes of reading. Angel Bastardo has teased us and with with a post of going on his holidays again, and this time it seems that he'll be finding himself up north, and from my guess I'd say near the university city of Stirling. With his hotshot Stirling side, FM Samo will be playing host to Angel Bastardo in what can only be one of the community's more interesting pieces that will be definitely worth your reading if you haven't already. With all the rumours as well circulating this week of FM making the jump to the Nintendo Switch, YouTube will probably be our best place to see all the latest reaction to our favourite game making the jump to Nintendo's latest console. So if you follow the link below, it'll take you to the YouTube search of FM on the Switch. New videos, of course, as well are appearing all the time from Bustin' Bustin', of course, is full of interesting storylines with different saves, of course, and as well as many educational videos. If you haven't heard his velvet voice, you have been missing out. It's time to make the jump and watch his latest content. So guys, that has been your FM Notebook for this week. Thank you for all your input. Thank you for listening this far. Next week, episode 4, we are going to be talking about the top 4. And with Wolves making such a bold statement, as it seems they will be gaining promotion this weekend, their bold statement is saying that they are going to be challenging back at the top of English football again. So next week we're going to be talking about cracking into the top 4 or cracking into the top levels of whatever league it is you are in. How can you take your side from the lower divisions and crash into those continental qualification places? So the question will be going out later on this week. Looking forward to hearing all your responses. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again next week.